Hello and welcome everyone. Today we will be doing a live discussion on the IDSA guidelines on the gram-negative infection and the antimicrobial resistance. Today we are joined by Dr. Samir Samal, who will tell us about the latest guidelines on how to manage multi-drug resistance gram-negative infections. So first we will discuss regarding the extended spectrum beta-lactamases enterobacteriaceae, that is ESBL-E. So our first question is, what would be the preferred antibiotic for treatment in uncomplicated cystitis, which is caused by ESBL-E?
For uncomplicated cystitis caused by ESBL-E, for uncomplicated cystitis caused by ESBL-E, the panel they have suggested to use either nitrofurantoin or you may use cotrimoxazole, trimethoprim, sulfamethoxazole. Fluoroquinolones and carbapenems are also sensitive, they can also be used. However, they should be preserved for later on for any drug resistant infections if these do not help. Now, amoxicillin clavulinate acid and aminoglycosides, single dose aminoglycosides, those can also be used. However, there are no data suggesting the use of amoxicillin and clavulanic acid. And aminoglycosides, they have again lack of data showing any good results in treating uncomplicated cystitis. Fosfomycin may be used, single dose fosfomycin, in only E. coli. Okay, other organisms they have a FOS-A gene which hydrolyzes the fosfomycin, so they should be used only for E. coli infections. And doxycycline, they generally don't achieve good concentration in the urine, so that should be avoided. So I would prefer nitrofurantoin and cotrimoxazole for treating uncomplicated cystitis caused by ESBL-E.
Okay, so if the patient has pyelonephritis or a complicated UTI, what will we do in that case?
In those cases, we would prefer either carbapenems or fluoroquinolones or cotrimoxazole. And generally, empirically, we would prefer to start patients on carbapenems. However, if the patient generally we find susceptible, after the culture reports come, we find it susceptible to cotrimoxazole or fluoroquinolones, we may shift to cotrimoxazole or fluoroquinolones. Nitrofurantoin and your like previously we had used nitrofurantoin, they do not achieve proper renal parenchymal concentrations. Now, complicated UTI, they are defined by any structural abnormalities in addition to your cystitis or any kind of UTI in male patients, that is complicated UTI.
Okay, so what should be our preferred antibiotic if there is an infection outside the urinary tract infection caused by this organism?
Okay, most of the trials they prefer carbapenems. They have shown good results with carbapenems, and those should be used. Again, in these cases, first we should start empirically on carbapenems, and once the patient is settled, the source of infection has been controlled, and if susceptibility is present, we should come back to oral antibiotics, again like fluoroquinolones or cotrimoxazole. And once the patient can take orally, then we should come back to oral antibiotics as soon as possible. We should avoid stepping down to nitrofurantoin, amoxicillin and fosfomycin, as they do not achieve proper serum concentration levels.
So regarding piperacillin tazobactam, do they have a role in ESBL infections? And what should we do if there is in vitro susceptibility in the culture report if we are getting a sensitive culture?
Ideally, piperacillin tazobactam should not be used in patients if we are suspecting ESBL-E. But however, if empirically at the beginning we have started, we may continue if there are resolving of symptoms. We may continue with that. Now, what happens is that with ESBL producing organisms, the MIC also that is shown is not very reliable. Even it shows sensitivity, ESBL producing organisms with piperacillin tazobactam is not very reliable. So we should change to carbapenems.
So now regarding cefepime, what would be the role in this type of infections? And again, what should we do if we get a culture which is sensitive to cefepime with ESBL?
Again, same as piperacillin tazobactam, cefepime should also be avoided. However, if there is clinical recovery and the symptoms have come down with cefepime, we may continue with cefepime. However, if there is no recovery, we may change to carbapenems. Again, any ESBL producing organisms, the MIC is not very reliable.
Now, what is the preferred antibiotic if the infection is caused by E. coli, Klebsiella pneumoniae, Klebsiella oxytoca, or Proteus mirabilis, which is not susceptible to ceftriaxone if confirmatory phenotype ESBL testing is negative?
Currently the CLSI, they have not approved any ESBL testing phenotyping tests. Okay, so basically in the culture sensitivity reports, resistant to ceftriaxone with a MIC of more than 2 microgram per milliliter is taken as ESBL producing organism. So generally,
So even if we do not get a phenotype,
CLSI has not approved any phenotyping. CLS is not approved. There are many available, but CLS is not approved any test particularly. They take as ceftriaxone more than MIC more than 2 as ESBL producing. So if it is in these conditions that has been asked, according to the susceptibility, we can give the antibiotics.
what is the preferred antibiotic for treatment of bloodstream infection caused by ceftriaxone non-susceptible E. coli and all these organisms if BLA CTX-M gene is not detected using a molecular platform including this target?
BLA CTXM gene, that is one of the several ESBL enzymes. So absence of this particular enzyme doesn't mean that the organism isn't ESBL. So if susceptibility testing shows resistance to ceftriaxone, it is considered ESBL, irrespective it produces CTXM gene or not. So in these patients, we should start with carbapenems.
So now coming to the next group of organisms, the most important and the most frequently the organism that we find in our ICU, that is carbapenem resistant Enterobacteriaceae. Now the first question is again the same, would be our preferred antibiotic of choice if we are treating an uncomplicated cystitis by CRE?
Now again in uncomplicated cystitis because of CRE, we should, like carbapenem is carbapenem resistant, so we should avoid the carbapenem in uncomplicated cystitis. We can go for fluoroquinolones, cotrimoxazole, single dose aminoglycoside, okay, and maybe also nitrofurantoin. Clinical studies are generally not available for all these drugs, any their and their advantages. Now they have seen that there is more some studies they have shown more susceptibility to single dose aminoglycosides like amikacin or plazomicin. Then meropenem, if it is carbapenem's production is, if it is positive, then we should avoid meropenem. Now in susceptibility we can see that there is resistance to ertapenem is present but sensitive to meropenem. In those cases we may use. Okay. However, if there is a known carbapenem producing organism in uncomplicated cystitis also, we should avoid meropenem and use drugs that do not belong to the carbapenem group. And we can also use in rare cases, if none of these susceptibility is present, like for cotrimoxazole, nitrofurantoin, we may use ceftazidime avibactam or meropenem vaborbactam or our imipenem cilastatin relebactam.
Okay. So now say the patient has a complicated UTI or pyelonephritis, what would be your antibiotic of choice in that case?
In this case, complicated UTI, as we have already discussed, structural abnormality is present. In these, your cotrimoxazole, nitrofurantoin, these all won't help. They don't achieve significant renal concentrations. So in these patients, we should use preferably ceftazidime avibactam, your meropenem vaborbactam, imipenem, cilastatin and relebactam. Okay. So once daily aminoglycoside, the proper treatment dose, not single dose, once daily dosing may be used if your renal functions allow. That can be used. Oral fosfomycin again should not be used as it has poor renal concentrations.
Okay. So what would be your preferred antibiotic if the infection is outside the urinary tract infection and the CRE is resistant to ertapenem but is susceptible to meropenem when the carbapenem is testing is done?
So as I said earlier, if it is resistant to ertapenem but sensitive to meropenem, we may use meropenem to treat these infections. And in this case, we should use extended infusion meropenem rather than your normal meropenem. But however, in these patients, we should avoid meropenem vaborbactam and imipenem cilastatin relebactam. They have not shown any more advantage benefits over extended infusion meropenem. and in some cases, if we may give ceftazidime avibactam. Ceftazidime avibactam can be used, but meropenem, ivermectin, imipenem, cilastatin, relivectin, they have not shown any advantage over extended infusion meropenem.
Now again, if the organism is both resistant to ertapenem and meropenem, and the infection is outside the urinary tract, what would be our antibiotic in that case?
So most of the infections, these infections, they are generally KPCs producing, Klebsiella pneumoniae, carbapenems. So in these patients, we can use all the three: ceftazidime avibactam, meropenem, ivermectin, and imipenem, cilastatin, relivectin. Now, study of around 131 people, they have shown that there is no difference in these three regimens. Intergroup regimens is not seen any adverse. So all three are, they have good in vitro susceptibility of invertebrate susceptibility of cefiderocol is also they have shown good results. Imipenem, cilastatin, they have shown good results. Imipenem, cilastatin, and relivectin, they have shown good results. And but studies specifically have not taken imipenem into consideration. Okay, but the in vitro testing, they have shown promising results. So based on that, this can also be used. Imipenem, cilastatin, and relivectin. This combination can be used. Although studies do not have not studied this drug, but they have shown good in vitro susceptibility. Now, in another trial of 118 patients, we have seen that mortality because of cefiderocol is high in the study arm. Okay, so cefiderocol should be used only when all these three regimens cannot be used because of some complications or because of unavailability or anything else.
Now,
there is two catches in this, because this we are discussing about resistant organisms. Now there are also other which I said now was mostly because of KPCs. Now there are other enzymes also like New Delhi metalloglobulins. In this case, we should actually ideally use ceftazidime, avibactam, and aztreonam combination. In these cases, there is no role of meropenem, ivermectin, and imipenem, cilastatin, relivectin. And now again, in these patients also, cefiderocol may be used as a alternative regimen.
So then even in NDM also?
Yeah, in NDM also. NDM. Cefiderocol is only when others are not available, or because of some reason we are unable to give that, then only we should give cefiderocol. Now, as we have asked for infections other than UTI, taking consideration into intra-abdominal infections. The intra-abdominal infection, they say we should be giving tigecycline. Okay, tigecycline or eravacycline. Now, the tigecycline, the normal dose of 100 mg start, then 50 mg BD. That has been they prefer giving high dose for complicated infections, intra-abdominal infections. They prefer 200 gram and then 100 BD.
Questions we have discussed regarding if the carbapenemus testing is either negative or it is unavailable. Say for example, we develop an infection outside the urinary tract, but the carbapenemus production is present this time. In that case, what would be our preferred antibiotic of choice?
Okay, now as again here I would like to subgroup the carbapenemus as I said in the previous question. The carbapenemus can be KPC, or can be New Delhi metalloproteinases, or can be OXA48, okay, or can be intra-abdominal infections like. So for KPC enzymes, we can give ceftazidime, avibactam, meropenem, ivermectin, and imipenem, cilastatin, relivectin. Okay, but for in New Delhi metalloproteinase, NDM carbapenemus producing organisms, for them, as we said discussed earlier, we have to give the combination of ceftazidime, ivermectin, and aztreonam, or in worst cases cefiderocol. Now, if the organism is OXA producing organism, in that only ceftazidime, avibactam has to be used. Okay, and meropenem and ivermectin and imipenem, cilastatin, and relivectin, they have no role. And in intra-abdominal infections, we would prefer tigecycline or eravacycline.
What is the view regarding the role of polymyxin in these type of infections?
The panel have clearly said to avoid polymyxins as much as possible in any kind of infections. Only they have advised colistin that can be used when the organism is not susceptible to any of the organism, and that is also alternative regimen. First we should try ceftazidime avibactam. If that is for some reason not available, then we may use colistin only in complicated urinary tract infection. Otherwise polymyxins or colistin, they have no role in this. CLSI, what they have done is they have totally removed susceptibility of colistin and polymyxin from the testing.
Why did they?
They have shown that the colistin, the polymyxins and all, they do not achieve proper renal renal concentrations, and the colistin, the studies that they have shown that colistin is associated with higher mortality and they have more serious renal complications than the antibiotics that are present in options with us like ceftazidime avibactam or meropenem avibactam. So polymyxins are generally nephrotoxic and they have higher mortality in a study that they have shown. They have higher mortality. So that is why they are trying to avoid polymyxin.
Even the standard, I think the sensitivity tests are also not done.
Yeah, CLSA they have removed testing of polymyxin from the susceptibility tests.
So what is the opinion regarding the role of combination antibiotic therapy in this? Should we give single antibiotic or do we give better to give combination therapy?
No, the panel strictly says to avoid combination therapy. They have no added advantage over your ceftazidime avibactam or meropenem avibactam. Okay, so there is an advice against using the combination therapy. However, again, I said if not available. However, again, it is said if it is not available, the previous drugs, you may go for combination therapy, but it is better to avoid.
Okay, the next group of organism is difficult to treat resistance in Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Again, the first question is what would be the preferred antibiotic of choice in uncomplicated cystitis?
In difficult to treat Pseudomonas aeruginosa infections for uncomplicated cystitis, the preferred drugs used to be used are ceftolozane tazobactam and ceftazidime avibactam and imipenem, cilastatin, relebactam. So single dose aminoglycosides can also be used if again these agents are not available or for some reason cannot be given to the patients. Now colistin can also be used as an alternative agent because it is a prodrug, it gets converted to its active form in the renal and has good urinary concentrations, but it should be only as an alternative regimen. Now, oral phosphomycin should be avoided because these organisms produce phos-A genes. They have phos-A genes which hydrolyzes the phosphomycin. So phosphomycin should be avoided.
Okay, so next is what would be our preferred antibiotics in case of pyelonephritis and complicated UTI infections?
Okay, so complicated UTI we have already defined. So in this case also we have to give ceftolozane tazobactam, ceftazidime avibactam or imipenem, cilastatin and relebactam. Now once daily dosing aminoglycoside can be used if the renal parameters permit. Okay, and we should avoid again oral phosphomycin has no role. Again, it has lower concentrations in renal parenchyma and also Pseudomonas has phos-A gene which hydrolyzes the phosphomycin. Now, if in this case plazomycin is also, if all aminoglycosides are resistant, even plazomycin will not be effective.
So the final question of the session, we have all used combination chemotherapy for Pseudomonas infection. So what does the panel recommend regarding combination antibiotic therapy in this difficult to treat Pseudomonas?
These infections, ideally we should go according to your in vitro susceptibility testing. The panel as such goes against using your combination therapy. Now, suppose empirically we have started combination therapy, we should change to your the appropriate antibiotic as soon as the susceptibility testing has come. Okay, if now again it is resistant to all the Pseudomonas aeruginosa infection, then only we may prefer combination therapy. Okay, like combination therapy, different combinations used are like colistin along with BLBLI, or we can also go with aminoglycoside and ceftazidime avibactam or aminoglycoside and colistin, but these are again very highly renal toxic, so better to avoid. So unless it is resistant to all organisms, we should not go for these combination therapies. Okay, susceptibility testing should be done and accordingly the antibody should be prescribed. Now suppose it is resistance to all organisms, along with aminoglycoside we should give one of the ceftazidime avibactam or ceftolazone or imipenem. Now, out of these three, which one to choose, which has the closest to your MIC value? That has to be chosen along with aminoglycoside. Combination therapy is advisable only in these specific conditions when it is completely resistant to all. Now, if no aminoglycoside show any activity, then we may go for polymyxin B along with a BL-BLI in bloodstream infections, because polymyxin B is already active drug, okay, and colistin should be avoided because colistin is a pro-drug and gets converted to Chappie form in the kidneys. So polymyxin B has to be used in patients who have complete resistance to all and also aminoglycosides, and polymyxin B is also less renal toxic than colistin. So these are the regimens for out of urinary tract infections, bloodstream infection of difficult to treat Pseudomonas aeruginosa.
So thank you, Dr. Sameer, for sharing the guidelines with us and telling us how to treat these difficult infections. And please check our website to see the summary of all the infections, how to treat them, which organism to be treated with which antibiotics, and also to check what doses of antibiotics are to be used. Thank you for your patience and check our website for these information. Thank you, Sameer.
Thank you.